Oh, yeah, we're started. Hey, everybody, welcome. Josh Wade is here with me. Hi, Josh.
Hey, hey.
Josh is frozen, but Josh is also upset because for the last 3 minutes, he thought we were already recording. And then I'm
This is
like, all right, let me start the
you get.
recording. He's like, what?
This is what you get with Chris, you know?
Yeah, this is what
It's
happened. So we're just going to
yeah.
talk about fiction writing. We're both, well, I personally am writing my novel right now, and I have an idea for a second one.
Whoa.
And
Two.
so, Josh, you're also interested in. Are you currently writing right now?
Uh Doing outlines, right? I haven't gotten into, banging out the actual first draft yet, but I've got a lot of ideas and we can talk more about that. I mean, I've got a series in my head that has all kinds of possibilities and I'm pretty sure I know what genre I want to get into. We can talk about that a little bit too. It's a very interesting genre that kind of you can kind of play around in, and because I'm a kitchen sink kind of guy. I don't like to necessarily get narrowed down to a specific niche, although all the gurus tell you that's what you need to do. But let me take a step back.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in this. This is not maybe one day it would be my livelihood, but that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because, like, okay, I got into comic books when I was 13 and I wanted to tell stories ever since then. And I started writing stories, that long ago. And I've always said, oh, this is what I want to do. But, life gets in the way. It's like, if I'm going to do anything with this, if I'm going to stop the sound of the dogs barking in my head by getting the words out onto the page, I just got to start doing it. And, maybe somebody will like it. Maybe they don't. Doesn't really matter. I just need to get it out there and get it done, and then we'll just see what happens.
Yeah. I also earlier this year started writing a book with the same idea. Like a story came to me. I want to tell it. There's a deeper message in there which I want to convey to the world. I've been actually conveying that message for many years already
Mm-hmm.
in terms of spirituality and wisdom, some
Yep.
deeper stuff.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like, yeah, I had this idea for a story, so I'm doing it. And I also, by the way, I haven't started writing yet. I'm still in the outlining stage and plotting and character arcs and all that. My plan, just to because I want to ask you about this. My plan, because I've never been a good writer. Like, in fact, English was like my worst subject. I'm more of a math and science guy, mostly a math guy.
Mm-hmm.
So math comes easy. Like, literally, I could do everything in my head. Pretty much, it's not hard. But writing is like, oh. So I am going to be leaning on the AI writing quite a
Yeah.
bit when I'm writing my novel. So I've already gotten an account with this platform called Novel Crafter,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome. It's helping me develop my whole novel, and also AI is embedded in there. So once
Yeah.
I start having my chapters and scene beats, I'm going to be able to ask the AI, write 400 words about this scene beat and all this, and
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm going to use AI. I know in the writing industry, this is a huge contentious point now.
Oh
Are you
yeah.
using AI? Are you not? Is it cheating? So for me, I don't care because I'm not a writer anyway. I'm just having fun. I'm going to make something that I love. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that and AI as well?
Oh yeah. So first of all, hey, kudos, good job. I think there's an opportunity for us to keep each other accountable when it comes to, banging on the keyboard every day. And I think that's maybe one of the first things is like, hey, you got to write every day, whether it's on your fiction or, I mean, we're writing every day anyway, but like you need to have time carved out to do that. And I think writing begets writing. And so I would say I wouldn't worry too much about what you think your skill level is at writing because everybody started at zero, right? Some people don't start writing. You'll look at some careers. There's people older than us that didn't start writing and had really great careers, um, because they live life, right? And I think you can't discount that. starting early in writing is not necessarily well, we're not in it to, I'm not in it to necessarily make a name for myself or be successful at that. I want to tell a story, and if it resonates with someone, great. So don't discount, your skill level, because it comes along, right? Just like what we're doing here and podcasting or anything you do, the more you do it, you're going to get more adept at it. So that's one. Two, hey, I'm going to use AI as well. And yes, I agree. It's very contentious. And there's a lot of people say, oh, that's a big no. And I think not using AI is silly, right? I'm kind of in the middle. It's like, why would I not use it to help me keep organized, especially when it comes to something that's complex and my brain is getting old and feeble, and I want to make sure that, I don't cause any continuity issues and stuff like that. So it's like, why would you not want to use AI, right? I mean, it's just a tool, right? And I think that's my point, is it's just a tool. And if people are getting wound up about stuff, they're getting wound up about the wrong thing, right? Because right, you can use them for good, you can use them for bad. I realize there's some tools like social media that you could argue maybe we'd be better if we never had that to begin with, especially for brain development in our young ones. But I'm going to use it because I'm going to use it to help keep me organized, help me get outlines, help me tie things together better. But the actual day-to-day words that are going to make it on the page is not going to be something I'm going to generate and just call it good. I'm going to use it as a tool in the belt to help with plots and outlines and story beats and keeping characters, and stuff together. Cause that's really what that's for. So yeah, I'm definitely going to lean into that. And have no problem using AI for what it should be used for, which is, an assistant.
Right. To help you take your skills up several notches. Yes.
Yeah, and let's be honest. I mean, all the stories have already been told. And most of the stories, I mean, look at Harry Potter. That story has been told over and over, the hero's journey, right? I mean, it's the same. Do we not see the parallels between Harry Potter and Luke Skywalker? I mean, come on. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there. That story's been told, but it was told differently, with different detail, different flair, different style. So it resonates with different people because but there's something to mind there, which is we as a people need story, and we as a people crave certain archetypes and certain narratives, because it helps us understand the world that we're navigating, and it helps us, I think. And hopefully it's okay if we just fall into the deep end, because me, I might just go.
Let's go.
I'll go into the deep end, but we'll bring it back around. It helps us navigate and understand the world in a safe way. I always say I'm a big horror fan, and maybe I've wanted to write horror fiction as well. It may not necessarily be what I want to write, but I actually, and we can get into this later, I think the world that I want to develop has the ability to pull some stories into that and fit into the overall world and be able to satisfy anybody who has the itch to do that, including myself, that wants to tell those kind of stories. But I always like that genre because, it helps you deal with things that are scary, and things in life are scary at times, but it helps you do it in a very safe and controlled manner, almost as though you have a safety net. So consuming stories that are horrific and scary allow you to be able to navigate the world in a way that you're not actually facing those things in real life, but you're actually able to learn more about yourself and learn how to deal with some of the things that scare us outside of that 2 hours or whatever it is that we're taking to consume that story. And so I think that's true of, I just use that as an example because I think that's an easy, that genre is very visceral. It's it cuts to the heart, pun intended. It takes you to a space that's very primal, and you know that going in, right? And I'm also a fan of spiritual journeys, and I will always tell people, it's like, writing in that particular genre is cool because everyone that goes into consuming horror genre content knows that understands and believes the concept of good and evil, right? Because you have to be able to enjoy what it brings to the table. So I think that's the power of genres. And so that leads me to my question. What's the genre that this story you're cooking up fits into? And it's okay if it doesn't fit into one, and it's okay if it's a brand new one. That might even be better.
Yeah, this is a great question. And people online asked me this like within the last week, because I posted, hey, I'm writing a book and whatever. Yeah. And several people asked me, oh, what kind of book? What's it about? That's what they asked me. What's it about?
Yep.
And I really said, I don't want to really talk about it in detail yet, but my answer was, it's a sci-fi fantasy with spiritual undertones.
Okay.
And
so maybe like Star Wars. Because really, or The Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a lot different. But yeah.
Somewhere in between, maybe. No, that's okay. Here's why I asked, because I think it's important for me to remember that, if I do want someone to read my stuff, like I know I've said it, I'm not going to lose any sleep if anybody doesn't, but I think it's important to think in parameters around the genres that already exist and play within those frameworks, but then be able to bring our own twist and unique freshness to that. And the reason I say that is because, well, when we need to go see a dentist, what do we look for? We look for dentists first, and then we look for, recommendations, right? Or if we look, I got to go to I need something for my car. I'm not going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to go to AutoZone, right? So I look at that AutoZone as the overall genre, but then when you get inside, now we can play. But I want to bring you to the table and let you know, hey, this is sci-fi fantasy, and maybe a little other dash of things in there as well. Because that way I know that I'm at least speaking to, or at least casting a net to the right folks that might be interested versus people that, read Westerns or fans of romance and not necessarily sci-fi fantasy. And there is a difference between science fiction and science fantasy, for sure.
Yeah, I don't really know I'm just sort of guessing at sci-fi and fantasy for now. Like, I've been doing a lot of research, watching a lot of YouTube videos. There are so many good YouTube videos that talk about fiction writing in terms of plot, character development, how to begin your book, how to end your book. Like, I am just enjoying this learning process so much. I can't explain it. It's and for me to write my book, it's going to take me a long time. Like, it's going to take me at least another 6 months probably. And so overall, it's going to take more than a year. That's even with the AI help.
Yeah.
So, but I love it. And I think this sort of educational path that I'm on is necessary, because I do want to write a good book.
Yeah.
I understand the power of presentation, right? You can have a great story, but if you present it wrong, it's not going to be good. Like, it has to be both. Story has to be good, and you need to present it well. And that's when everything clicks and everybody likes it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Do you feel like when you watch, and I don't know how many you've watched, but do you feel stifled in any way by watching some things or feel like, oh, this is information overload, and now I'm like, oh man, I got to do this before I can start. Do you ever feel that way?
I do feel that way sometimes, but in general, I'm just a sponge. I enjoy taking it in. At times I do, at times I realize, like, oh my God, I'm going to have to come up with subplots and subplot arcs. And like, that's a whole nother thing. And so, yeah, on one hand, I'll say, oh my God, that's a whole nother thing I didn't think of. But on the other hand, again, I'm enjoying this, and I don't really care how much work it takes. It's not going to take that much work. But it's fun. And I do want to I do want to do it right. So I'm sort of, I guess it's me. I'm more of like an engineer type. Obviously, I'm an audio engineer and a podcast producer, right? I'm more of
Right.
as Dave Jackson would say, how do we make the sausage? Like,
Yeah.
I'm in the background. I like knowing how everything is made, but writing this, being involved in writing this book it's also cool on the creative side because my imagination gets to roam. In fact, I thought a few days ago, I realized I'm enjoying this so much. Maybe I should have gotten into writing earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you
No,
can
I
never
hear you.
say that. In life is life.
Yeah,
It happens when it
yeah.
happens.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, you can't dwell on that too much. Hey, samesies, right? Because that's what I wanted to do, and there is a little bit of that. Well, you big dummy, why, why have you waited this long? And I try not to stay in that headspace because it's not productive, right? I can't get in my time machine and travel backwards and make myself do something. Like the time is right when the time is right, and maybe I always tell someone asked me one time, hey, if you could go back and change stuff, what would you change? Do you have any regrets? And my answer was I wouldn't. Well, first of all, with time travel you can't go backwards, you can only go forward. Everyone knows this. So uh that's one. Two, everything that I have in my life led me to here, right? So if I go back and change anything, it's like saying I'm not happy with my life now, and I'm not happy with my life now. Then what am I doing to change that in the present? Like, what am I working on? It just doesn't compute for me. And so I try not to stay in that head. It's, of course, you're going to have those moments where it's like, okay. And that's okay. Feel it. Have your feelings, just don't stay there. Use it as a good opportunity to be like, okay, cool. Now, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to use all this breadth of knowledge that I've amassed over this lifetime, and that's going to get baked into there somehow. And I don't have to think about it too consciously because subconsciously it's going to work its way in. So I try not to, when I sit and I'm just trying to entertain and tell a good story. And I always think about, and I've read some boring books, and it's okay to give up on a book, by the way. You don't have to finish something just because, and it's okay to not like the classics either. There are some of these where it's like, oh God, this is super dry. And, but it is a classic for a reason. Right. And so respect, but it's not for me. Right. I'm a big Pulp Fiction guy. The movie, I love Tarantino, of course, but when I say Pulp Fiction, I'm talking about, the fiction from back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, those dime store novels, those magazines where there were those short stories that were just packed with a powerful punch. And, I want to entertain first and foremost. Right. And I want to write about heroes, and I don't see as many of those as I used to. Right? They're still there, but it's not as prevalent. And I think there's a real opportunity to bring some really heroic stories where I want to write something where people can see themselves in the hero, right? And they learn something about themselves, right? And they can fill in some of those blanks, because those the stories that have resonated the most with me are the ones where it's like, I'm part of it, right? And it lifts me up, right? And it's fun and it's entertaining and it's time well spent. And when you start getting to my age, you start really getting concerned about, well, time well spent. Did I enjoy the passage of time? If I didn't, don't do that no more. But so I kind of rambled there for a minute. So bring me back in.
Yeah. So I have a question.
But I feel like there's some good stuff in there.
Oh yeah. No, I love this. This is, I love chatting with you about really anything. So
yeah,
this is fascinating.
That. Likewise.
It's such a creative, it's like an expedition, right? It's
yeah.
So it's exciting. But I wanted to ask you, so you're writing, you have an idea for a series.
Yep.
So are you like writing book one of the series right now?
Maybe. Actually, I'm going to start off with a short story. And that's what something I was going to mention earlier is sometimes we bite off too big of a chunk, right, at a time. And, I think it's the old adage of put just one foot in front of the other. It's like, hey, put one word right after the other, write a sentence, then write a paragraph, then write two paragraphs, then write a chapter, see where it goes. Sometimes you can tell a whole story in a chapter, and then sometimes that story can become bigger. You see that with a lot of the guys where they wrote a bunch of short stories and then they expanded those short stories into novels later, and it really works. Sometimes it doesn't always work, but sometimes you don't always know what you got, right? And so I think I got to find that balance, and I would say this for you as well, or anyone actually, is find that balance between, I want to write this big novel, but if I've never done it before, but maybe start smaller and, just write a scene about your character and just kind of see where it takes you. And shoot, that might even be a self-contained story within itself. And what, we live in the age of the internet where there are no gatekeepers anymore. We don't have to worry about agents. We don't have to worry about publishing houses. We can be our own publishers. And that's the dream for me is I want to think more as a publisher. Right. And so I'm going to write shorter stuff. I want to get that out there to an audience and maybe get the feedback cycle going. Right. And it's like, hey, yes, if I enjoy this, I'm going to write it, but getting feedback from people is not necessarily a bad thing either. And be like, oh man, I can lean in this direction, or, I can go in this direction over here, or people can give me feedback. It's like, man, I didn't even think of that before. And that's really cool and exciting for me. So the genre, I guess you can call it a genre. But what I want to start in, because I know that there's a thirsty audience for this, and it's a fascinating genre to me. And I've read a couple of novels in the genre. It's called lit RPG, so literature role playing game is what that stands for. There's another term that's I would say it's more parallel. It's not exactly the same thing. It's called game lit, and that would be more like your Ready Player One, right? So the idea is that there's a gaming element that is integral to the overall plot of the story, and there is a system of gaining experience or leveling up built into the story. And in some cases, literally on the page at the end of the chapter, you gain this many experience points, or you picked up these kind of items. And it's like, this just makes sense to me because I'm an old school gamer. I don't put me in front of some of the newer games today, especially not the ones where, like, Black Ops and anything, or Fortnite, or any of those things where you got to have like dexterity to like shoot things. No, if it's a strategy game, cool. Or if it's football, because I know football is 90% strategy. That's the genre I want to work in. And the reason I want to do that is because I don't want to be bound by traditional genres, which means I have some horror stories that I want to write. I have some fantasy stories I want to write. I have maybe even some Western stories I want to write. I have some science fiction. Who knows what else is floating around in my brain? And I don't want to be pigeonholed. So the idea was, well, if I create this world that is basically, I guess in a way it'd be kind of like Ready Player One, which would be a gaming type system that people can be in and doing things in that world. And it can be then whatever genre within that landscape. And so I also am a fan of the 80s, and I want to take elements of this cult classic called The Last Starfighter. Are you familiar?
Oh, I remember that, but not really. The name rings a bell, but
So it resonated with me when I was a kid, and the idea was this guy, he had a really kind of crappy life, and again, the plot line is very reminiscent of many other stories, right? You know, here's this kid, he's in his late teens, maybe a little bit older. You know, he's got a lot of responsibilities on his shoulder. He's kind of feels like he's stuck in a small town. And his only escape is this video game that he plays at the local restaurant, and it's called Starfighter. And basically, he gets high score one night, and then he gets visited by an alien, which is basically said, "Hey, that was a recruitment tool, and you know, we need you to come fly a spaceship and help us with this intergalactic war, because you've proven that you know, you're worthy." And so I want to do something similar to that, maybe a little bit more updated, and maybe have some elements of military type stuff in there, with a dash of warrior monks, not unlike Jedi. I mean, there's a lot again, kitchen sink. I want to borrow and honor a lot of other things. I don't want to steal and make things blatant, but just this whole world can scale, and I can do all kinds of things in it.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, you froze. Frozen.
I frozen again.
Speaking of Frozen,
that's me.
There's a character in Frozen, the one from 2013, I believe the original one.
Yep.
So I'm not going to say the name, but for my novel, I came up with a name for a character, and then I just searched. I use the perplexity.io to search these days. It's a great, it's way better than Google for search because it uses AI as well in addition.
What doesn't?
So I searched, does this character name, are there any other movies or books that use this exact name for a character? And it came up in Frozen 2013. There's like a side character with this name. Wow. So I was thinking of like, well, I got to change the name because I want to make things original.
Yeah, of course.
And I tried this name, I tried that name. And then last night I looked at it again and I'm like, you know what? I'm using that original name because that's the best name.
Do it.
And I don't care if it's some side character in Frozen. I don't care, right?
and I don't think readers are going to care either. I mean,
they might not even know.
They wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
You look at all this energy we're wasting on naming characters.
Oh,
I mean, you could write a story and then if you got to change a character's name later, you know, just find and replace.
Yeah, that's what I thought with like, because another thing I want to do, like, I'm going to use AI to write the book, and then I'm going to obviously do a lot of editing, and I'm going to make it as human as possible.
Sure.
Because I do want to copyright it. I don't want to use all AI, because if you use all AI, then you can't copyright it.
That's right.
Sort of. But because every idea, every character, I'm coming up with everything.
Yeah.
And then I'm only going to use the AI to like, okay, write the scene. And so, and even that, what the AI writes in the scene, I'm going to take that and tweak it, change it, whatever.
Of course.
So I am going to copyright my book. But what I'm saying, what I'm getting to is that I also want to have like a real editor, right? Like,
yeah.
Because when I get to that point, it's like, you know, you got to have a real editor.
Yep.
And I mean, if you want to publish it as a real book, if you just want to publish it and be like, hey, this is my book, that you can do that. But like I said, I want to do it fully. And I want to enjoy the whole process. So anyway, when it gets to that point of an editor, if they see a character name that like, that name, you might want to change that name at that point. You're right. It's easy to change the name.
That's right. I'll just fire them and get somebody that says, yes, go ahead. I surround myself with yes people. That's my plan. Then don't let me read it because I'll be like, no, this is garbage. You gotta change everything.
So you're in the outlining stage.
This story needs a horse, a couple mules.
I should have the sound clip. I don't have the sound clip. So you're outlining. Are you outlining one short story for now, or are you sort of like outlining several things at once?
I'm outlining more world parameters. The actual first story, I probably won't outline. I'll probably just do seat of the pants. And I've done that with a couple other things. And it just starts with, you see a movie in your head and you just write it. you know, that's kind of how I've always done it. And you just try to describe what you see and you know, this is going to sound weird, but what you can smell and taste in your head.
Totally.
Because those things are very vivid for me and always have been. Now my writing style can be a little jarring. So that's something I want to work on, because I don't know if it's been beaten into me from the workplace, but I don't use a lot of adjectives, and I use very short sentences, and it tends to be like to the point. Right. Okay. And sometimes that's not, you know, ideal. It wouldn't be, I mean, if you've ever read a Cormac McCarthy book, boy, those run-on sentences go for like forever. Oh. And like if you ever try to, if you want to, some of his books are work, like Blood Meridian, good stuff. But my goodness, man, you got to pack a lunch and, and stay hydrated. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, it's art. And, you know, you can't sit there and go, oh, well, this is the way I need to do it. No, this is the way he did it for the story he needed to tell. You do whatever you need to do to tell the story that you need to tell on that. And I'm excited by that, because I know that means that your style might kind of go through ebbs and flows, and you know, and it's not going to resonate for some people. And you know what? That's okay, because just like everything else, if you don't like it, it's not for you. So move on.
Yeah.
Looks like did we freeze again?
I
stay frozen. I stay frosty.
Blurbed a little. What you were saying before was interesting. For someone, they could just start with writing like a short story, or just write, see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's good advice if someone's in that position. What happened with me though was different. One night I just had this idea for a story, and I just was outlining the story. Oh, he goes here, and then he meets a person like this, and then the evil guy does this, and I literally outlined definitely a whole book, if not more than one book. So awesome. For me, it's like writing a short story is not optional for this one, because it's cool. It's like all there already, and that's why I'm doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But starting out shorter, no rules. Yeah, exactly. There's no rules.
Yeah. I mean, starting off shorter could be you just write a chapter, and, you know, you see where that goes, and it fits into the overall thing. And so, like, you know, like I said, I'm outlining like the world and the people that are going to be in it. And then, you know, I don't want to get too crazy, because I know that the whole reason I chose this path is it's scalable, and I can worry about, I've really put a lot of thought into how can I play in this world and do whatever I want, and then whatever I want still makes sense within parameters of the world that's being created. Right. And what I'm finding, and I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but it's all about world building, in at least in my opinion, because I sit here and I think about all the guys I enjoy reading, and it's like, no, even if they have titles that don't necessarily connect to each other, they're all kind of part of the same. Stephen King's a great example. Like, I'm pretty sure he did all that consciously. We got other writers writing works of nonfiction to describe how all that stuff is tied together. And it's probably even better than the stuff that he's ever mapped out in his own head, which those folks are amazing in my book. It's like, coming from someone that used to have multiple podcasts talking about TV shows and worlds and characters and world building, I think that all of that, you know, is part of my journey as well. It's like, I understand when I sit down and watch a story, I'm that nerd that wants, hey, it needs to be quiet. I'm not doing anything else. I'm paying attention to this thing because I'm invested in the story. And if you don't do that, you don't catch the nuances. You don't catch the little things that the actors bring to their role that are even beyond what was written on the page. Right. And so those things fascinate me, right? Because it's human nature and characterization. And again, it is holding up a mirror, right? I can see myself in this and some of the decisions that I make. While I'm thinking about it, you had mentioned, okay, so you got the villain mapped out. I think that, honestly, I think that's absolutely key. And that's a lot of where I'm focusing now as well. And I need to get that nailed down before anything else, because the villain is what's really going to drive the story forward. And the reason I say that is, let's think about Star Wars for example. Yeah, Luke Skywalker's he's the main character, but yo, it don't work if Darth Vader ain't Darth Vader.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, right? I mean, he's the dude that drives everything, right? And so we need to have that on lockdown, and it has to be somebody that it feels real, and their motivations feel real, and is, I wouldn't say, diametrically opposed or the exact opposite of your hero, but there has to be some sense of, this dude is a bad dude. I understand where he's coming from. And there's a very real threat looming that my hero might not be able to accomplish whatever it is that they're trying to get. Right. So that's where I'm trying to put a lot of focus on, and making them real. And, Darth Vader, the great example. I would even argue that Thanos from the Marvel movies recently, is a pretty good example of a villain that is just an absolute madman, but you could totally understand where he was coming from and how and his rationale for doing what he did. And I don't know if you're into the Marvel movies or not, but he was trying to destroy half of the universe, right? Because he wanted to bring, it was a bad place where,
frozen
that means there's less suffering for the people that are left behind. It's like, dude, that's dark. And he was like, I'm the only one with the willpower to do this. And it was even darker in the comic book adaptation. He was actually going to kill half of the universe because he was trying to curry the favor of his of the lady that he had fell in love with, and that was Lady Death. And so he's like, hey, the only way I can impress Death is if I kill half the universe. So, that's villainous, man.
Yeah. I'm still working out my villain. But you make a great point. The villain can't just be like 100% evil guy. Just every single thing is evil, and
right,
because that's not relatable. So
that's right.
They have to be sort of human in some way, and sort of not 100% evil, because that's boring too. It's like, okay,
that's right.
Like, okay, you have an evil guy who comes in, he just kills everything he sees, and okay, but that's boring. Yep. Anyway, I'm working on my villain, but I had a big breakthrough yesterday. I woke up, and all of a sudden I had this. So in my novel, the protagonist, the hero, whatever, he was raised by his mom. So his dad left for some reason. And when I first was envisioning my story, I just thought, the dad's not around. I didn't know any more than that. I hadn't mapped out, like, where did he go? Did they get divorced? I don't know. I didn't know anything.
Right. Yeah.
And that was kind of bothering me after months of working on it. It's like, well, what about, that? And so anyway, yesterday morning, I finally, I had this idea of where his dad was, and it just created this whole other part, this whole other subplot of the whole story, which was way better. So it's funny how I was just I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I didn't try to force, like, where's his father? You have to tell me where his father is and what happened. Like, I was patient with it, and I let it unfold I let it, like, work itself out in my mind. And then months later, it came to me in a flash, like, oh yeah, that's where his dad was, and that's what his dad was doing. That's why he's not here now. And it just, so I was
clicked.
It all clicked, and it just was like, this whole part of the story was done now. Like, not done,
Nice.
but you know what I mean? Yeah. What a great feeling, man. And I told my wife, and my wife was like, wow, yeah, that's cool.
That is cool. That is cool. I don't know what exactly it is, but it's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It is cool. You'll see.
All right. I can't wait. Yeah. I don't know. I just, This is, like I said, this is something I've been wanting to do for a really long time. And it's like, hey, you need to just do this. And it doesn't matter if it works or not, because what works compared to what, right? I'm in that stage now. It's like, okay, so this thing happened and, oh, this is terrible. Terrible compared to what? Good compared to what?
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys tell me, right? I mean, says you.
Yeah, and
right?
also like it hit me recently that like you do something and is it a success? Like my new show, it's new. It's like 9-10 months old. It's Fractal
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I've been doing Fractal Bitcoin every day, talking about Bitcoin and financial freedom, and I love it.
Yeah.
And is it a success? I don't know. But one thing when you become old enough, this is one of the benefits of being a little older is that you actually realize that every little thing you've done in your life is like a little stepping stone.
Yep. It builds.
So you could have done 10 different things and you thought, "Oh, none of them were successful." But little by little those 10 lifted you up to here, and then you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, it compounds and it gets you to where you are. And that's exciting to me. And that when you have that light bulb go off, it's super exciting because you stop worrying less about, oh man, I got to start over. I got to do this. No, this knowledge, some knowledge is not transferable, obviously, but most of it is if you let it, right? And I think we get in our own way a lot of times. So it's like, if you're going to, I mean, you've been telling stories since you were a kid. You just don't remember it. We tell stories every day.
Right, everyone.
And then we worry about, oh, I don't know what I have to say. Or I worry about, or maybe you have gotten down and started banging on the keyboard and like, oh, I have writer's block. Well, you don't have talker's block, right? I challenge anyone to like, you can have a conversation with dang near anybody at any time about just about anything. If you're looking for those commonalities and inroads to, asking people about their day, and just, it goes from there. My point is that you got it in you. You just got to get it out and get it on the page. And it's not some big scary thing. And I think honestly, that was part of my problem, is I was probably scared of it. And what I mean by that is I probably put too many of my mental eggs in one basket, in the sense that, oh, I want to retire early one day, and I don't want to keep punching this time clock forever, which I don't. And I'm working on that in different ways. But I think one of the things was like, well, you can't really make a lot of money writing fiction. And I got a family. So I was like, man, I gotta stay doing this thing, which, even though I hate it, but I love my family more. And I love the fact that I can put food on the table. So that joy and that peace of mind, and that is what drives me to be able to do something that I don't necessarily want to do. Right. So, but if I can't make a full-time living doing the writing, like, well, how much energy am I going to put into this? Right. Maybe I need to go do some other side hustle to get ahead, or maybe I need to go do some other thing to try to get away from that so that I can eventually do the writing thing. And what I would say to that is, forget side hustles. Like, do whatever it is that you see in your head, or you've been trying to talk yourself out of. Just do it. And just do it, because whatever time you waste on other things is time that you're not putting on the thing that you want to accomplish. And you're never going to accomplish it because you're not working on the thing. So that was the epiphany for me. It's like, well, it doesn't matter if I'm ever successful at this. Find joy and peace that whatever comes tomorrow, if I have to keep punching this time clock for a few more years, that's fine. But I can't keep spinning my wheels, trying things that aren't working out. And they're not working out because I'm doing it and I'm finding out, well, I don't enjoy and do this at all. I was just listening to some knucklehead somewhere that said, well, it worked for me, right? Some guru somewhere saying, yeah, you can do this and you can make a lot of money at it. Well, no, you can. And I'm not even sure you did, but because if you did, why the hell are you trying to sell me on something that, it just doesn't add up. And so that's not to say you can't make money and all those things. You can if you work, and work doesn't need to be work doesn't need to be a 4-letter word. It is a 4-letter word, but you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be. So start working on the thing. And I think that's what we're doing. I think that's what we're doing is like,
Right.
no, we need to work on this thing. This is what's in front. This is what I want to do. And you do it. And as long as I'm enjoying it, and as long as it's bringing, some enjoyment in that process, fulfillment. Thank you. Do that thing. That's more valuable than trying to chase some dollar to get out from under doing something that you don't want to do. Although I do believe and tell my kids all the time, there's a tremendous value in knowing what you don't want to do and then not doing that.
Yeah.
So try things, especially when you're younger, because you got time. Try things and be like, I don't really enjoy doing that. Don't do that anymore. Especially before you get a lot of responsibilities, right? So all I'm saying is that I think my path to here, what do I wish I would have started earlier? Of course, I didn't, so it doesn't matter. I'm doing it now, but all that brought me to here. All that's going to find its way into the fiction, and it also gives me talking points to the people behind me to say, hey, don't wait, try things. You may fail, and that's fine, but I'd rather you fail now, figure out what you don't want to do, until, instead of failing later. So
yeah. And of course the word fail is in quotes. And I always like the term
fail compared to what? Fail compared to what? Again.
And there's another phrase people used to say a lot more. I used to hear it about a decade ago, was fail forward, which I like that actually, fail forward, which means just go, just do it, go. Yeah. And if you fail, whatever, but at least you're moving forward. One thing I have to deal with, and it was a kind of an easy decision. I had to decide where this book that I'm working on ends, because I actually thought of like a whole, like most of the whole book happens on one planet.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, a few of the people are going back to their home planet.
Yo.
And that's the end. Like they go back home and they won, or whatever. And that's the end. But no, I thought of something else that could happen. Like, the whole thing where like you think you defeated the bad guy, but did you? And so anyway, I thought of this whole other sequence of scenes, and I was like, yeah, I guess I could end the book. But I was confused that like, if I build up to like a climactic fight on this planet and the good guys win, that's kind of the end. So then I'm thinking of another fight over here, and I was like, that could be book 2. And I told my current editor, my wife, just kidding. I told her that she's like, yeah, that would be a good way to start book 2. They're sort of partying because they just won, but then someone enters the room, and then anyway.
Oh yeah. No, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Are we sure that this is not a thinly veiled Chris Curran alien abduction autobiography? Is that what we're doing?
No, but I will tell you what, I did decide. It's funny you bring that up. I did decide that because of the, I'm not really giving away anything, but in the book, there's this idea of spiritual growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I did go through a point in my life, and I still am in that phase now, but I went through when I started to get training, and a lot of spiritual growth happened because I left a lot of bad things behind and all that.
Oh, sure.
And so in a way, in a way, from the beginning, I kind of knew that my hero was me, kind of, but not really. And I didn't base him on me completely, but yeah, maybe part of that is based on me and my journey for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We see ourselves in our heroes, and mine's going to be at least 6 inches taller. So.
Oh yeah.
That's right. Oh man. Good stuff. No, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see where the stuff I'm working on go. I mean, I'll give a little taste of at least one character that's been running around in my head, and I'm sure he's going to be a side character. And here's a wonderful thing about a lit RPG and gaming. Well, any story really is side quest, right? Well, you're familiar with a lot of stories have side quests, right? We call them subplots and things like that, right? But yeah, it's a side quest, right? And so how the series have spin-off, right? And certain characters really take off, right? And people really resonate with that, and then be like, okay, we'll write some more stories about that. Or you find it interesting, be like, yeah, I'm gonna go down this path. And so I'm excited for that. But for like decades now, I've had this concept, and okay, this is gonna sound really weird and cheesy, but I'll just throw it out there. I've had this idea of a time traveling werewolf, and yeah, I knew. Hey, I told you it was gonna get weird. Time traveling werewolf, it's very much similar. And of course, I borrow from things that I've seen. You remember the old show, Quantum Leap?
Yeah,
Scott Bakula, right? So he jumped body to body, right? Similar kind of thing. At least the idea, and people listening are going, "Who is this hack? Who is this guy that can't come up with an original idea of his own?" I'm just saying,
dude, that's original. Come on,
give me a chance here. No, the idea, and I'm just, it's not. I do have some ideas of who the character is and what he stands for, and even the opening line of his first story, and I'll share that in a minute, because I feel like it could be a saga within itself. But it just seemed interesting to me that this time travel technology is somehow fused to him in such a way that every time he transforms, he goes to a different time. And then he has to deal with the aftermath of what he may or may not have done in his beast form before he transforms again, right? Because it's very much, I think he's far enough in his life journey to where he's not necessarily enamored with who he is, right? It's the whole concept of, taming the beast, being a beast, and not really enjoying the fact that I'm, terrorizing people. And maybe he's not always. Maybe there's some element where we can phase that out. But I don't know. It was just one of those things where it's like, wouldn't it be interesting, because I love werewolves, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually what got me into the horror genre. My dad, in his infinite wisdom, allowed me as a 7-year-old to watch The Howling, which is one of the best. Came out like the same time frame as American Werewolf in London. Those two movies, from a technical perspective, practical effect perspective, chef's kiss.
Yeah.
So I know.
Oh, you froze again. Oh,
you probably know, it changed me, and that's what really kind of sparked my love of horror and what you could do within that genre. So this, out of nowhere, idea came to me. Well, what about a time traveling werewolf that's not and we've seen this with like Blade from Marvel, where he's half vampire and he has to take stuff to where he doesn't, hurt people. And so we've seen concepts of people that are beastly that aren't necessarily enamored with the fact that they're beastly and they don't want to be hurting people, but can't necessarily help themselves either. Right. And so it's like, I feel like there's some stuff to mine there. And I think you could mine it for a while, because in some regards they're immortal, and then he's traveling through time. So you got this sci-fi element that you can do. And if somebody's going to run off and write all this stuff on AI, it's going to be on Amazon Kindle Unlimited tomorrow. But that's my luck. But no, I just love that idea, because I don't know, it just resonated. And I was like, that can actually, I already know of ways that I can shoehorn that well, I don't really have to shoehorn it in. I can weave it into that world that I've thought
Mhm.
about, which is a game. And I don't think I mentioned this. It's training. It'll be a training ground, right? It's for essentially intergalactic. There's a war across
Okay.
space and time, and it's good and evil, and there's aspects of spirituality interwoven in that. And I've always loved the concept of, we watch things where angels and demons and werewolves and vampires and things that go bump in the night, aliens, in the movies, in the stories, they're real. Well, what if they were really real? But they're obscured from us, and the only time the veil is pulled back slightly is when we watch the movies and we read the novels, and it's like, but that's giving you the taste of, hey, there's something bigger going on back here that well, not necessarily back here, all around you, that you can't necessarily see yet, but it's been going forever. And you've got this gaming element to help train people to be part of that bigger narrative and bigger story, and fight the war that's behind what you see in front of you. And so yes, my time traveling werewolf will be will be part of that. And the opening line to the first story is, I will return to when I belong. I don't know.
That's really
That just
cool.
makes me, because there's a lot packed into that.
Exactly.
Not
Yeah,
where
no,
I
that's
belong, when I belong.
exactly.
And who knows what that is, man? What does that mean? Right. So that's, and then when you get excited about something, somebody be like, that's the stupidest opening line ever. I don't know. I think it's cool. And
Yeah.
I can infer a lot of things out of that. And I'm excited to think about what feedback other people have someday, and like, oh, well, this is what I think what it means. And like, oh, that's awesome. And I think that's the stories I want to tell, is the things where I'm a big Alfred Hitchcock fan, right? I say I'm a big horror suspense, but that the point of that stuff was your imagination is so much more vivid than anything I can put on a piece of paper and put that image into your head. I want to give you a framework and an atmosphere so that you can build those images is in your brain and make it something, a unique experience to you, and the same for anyone that reads it. That's
Yeah.
the goal. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I believe that is precisely why a lot of people say, "Oh, the book was better than the movie," every
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
when you read the book, you create your own world, and
That's right.
and the world you create is based on you.
Yeah. And none of my
It comes
characters
from you.
are ever going to look like Matt Damon. Can't stand that
Yeah.
guy.
And
Except
even like,
he's a really good actor, and The Martian was really good, and there's a lot of other stuff he's in. It was really good. Good Will Hunting, he wrote that. I mean, come on.
yeah.
I'm just being mean.
Yeah. No.
Matt Damon.
Yeah, no, I was just actually I saw one video on YouTube that was, because I've been, like I said, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, but then I saw one video said, maybe instead of writing a book, you could just write a screenplay. And I was like, I guess you could, but like,
Maybe.
I don't know much. First of all, I don't know much about screenplays. Second of all, once I have a screenplay, what do I do with it? So I'm like, I'm just going to write my book,
I think you're right. I think write the book, and then that comes later if you want, right? Because that's a whole different style of writing, and people don't realize that people get so upset when things don't translate. It's like, well, they're not supposed to, because the book is a book, a movie is a movie, a comic book is a comic book, a TV show is a TV show. They all serve different purposes. They all have different parameters. A movie can only be so long.
Yeah, they all hit different. Yeah.
They all, exactly. And like right now I'm watching The Penguin on Max, which is within the Batman universe. And, we used to watch, I don't watch The Walking Dead anymore. But you can meander and you can let things breathe and you can have the space to tell these awesome arcs about characters that you just wouldn't be able to do if it was a movie, right? And you can do that stuff in books too, but the concept of the image from the book being in your head just doesn't work when it's on TV or in a movie or even comic books, right? Because there's art there to support it, which comic books are art. Damn it.
Was that ever up for debate? I don't think so.
It was at one point, like in the 80s. I'm a little late, but Frank Miller changed everything with the Dark Knight Returns. They're teaching that in college now, which they should. So,
yeah. All right. Well, look, man, we could talk forever, and I hope we can talk again. But
for sure, let's spare people.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I know they want more. I mean, I know they do, because why wouldn't you? Just bearded goodness squared.
When you're getting this just
these
golden content,
That's right. These nuggets of wisdom from two dudes that probably will maybe finish a novel within you said yours is 6. Oh, we will finish it.
We will.
Yeah, we will. And it's going to be the great American novel. It's yeah. I mean, I if I don't win a Pulitzer, then why am I even trying? Why? What are we doing?
Come on.
What are we doing here?
I'm checking. I'm checking. I haven't even published it. I'm checking my email every day for the awards coming in.
And for sure.
They're not coming
for
yet.
Sure.
I don't know why.
Yeah. the accolades are coming. They're coming.
Yeah.
You put that thing out, and I promise I'll be happy to write a blurb.
Yeah.
For the book, and I will laud you copiously.
Oh, sweet, man. If it's good. So.
Oh no,
right.
I'll make it up.
Do you have any final words for the world?
Final words? Wait, where am I going? What's happening? What are you? Should I watch? Should I turn the news on? What's happening?
I have to press stop on the recording at some point, and I'm like, what do I say right before that? I don't know.
That's right. I don't know. Hey, find whatever it is you're thinking about doing. Just start doing it. Just start doing it. If it's writing, podcast, asking somebody to go have dinner with you, just do it. Just do it. If it's in your heart, then just do it. Unless it's murder, don't have that in your heart.
Don't do anything.
Save that for the stories.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And also, just because I never mentioned it, I did publish a song. It's an instrumental song. You can find it on this channel.
Oh, nice.
It's called The Road Narrows. It's an instrumental song. But anyway, and I hope to post more on the Fractal Chris channel, but we'll see. But all right, Josh Wade, thanks, man.
Check it out. Hey, thank you, man.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.